Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. Here's some ideas about boatloads of entertainment media. Some serious, others not so much. Generally only spoilers for whatever's currently featured, and a bit of vague references to other things in a shared universe. Now with all of that out of the way, here we go. Impulsive excessive disorder. The advancement in tech regarding incredibly mundane things, such as this giant hollow billboard informing folks of Big Belly Burger, is clearly all about grabbing attention from alien visitors/immigrants wandering about in starships or whatever. Seems like a certain super family's ongoing helpful presence has made these kind of events go from, invasion, to just traffic, in most folks' minds. Those presumably always around up until now temporal change waves are visible this time around because Barry's Speed Force connection reactivating while he was wearing that chrono-hacking doodad gave history excess, it-forming energy that needed to be vented. Basically, reality just farted. Impulse was able to save Jay in this most recent life version because his sister and him, fiddling in the past, gave their dad some sort of good mood spark power boost by instilling even more optimism within said best when happy-go-lucky crime fighter. This level up would then result in both of them inheriting greater fast energy levels at birth. Trickster invaded Tibet because some massive prank the dude wanted to play on humanity's whole demanded he be at an excessively high elevation. It probably involved some sort of life-size toy rocket he could get in and use to fly around the globe, giving away newer versions of those special presents that were invented during Season 2. Booster Gold receiving formal thanks from the United States President likely has something to do with him fixing an aberration where somebody else was elected that term instead. He'd likely cause things to get screwed up in the first place. After Crisis, another Parrot Nor Allen doppelganger must have arrived on Earth Prime. And because of recent butterfly effect hoopla, Dawn Point put into effect, Jay Garrick was no longer around to help Joan sort that double together for too long physics-defying pain malarkey out. Thus, she exploded before the two could even meet, let alone fall in love and get married. Avery says theory instead of hypothesis because most folks she spilled coffee around are too dumb to know that second word. Though Crimson Comet's crack about Luthor running their nation was inspired by him recently reminiscing about helping Superman years ago and recalling that a plan involving such putrid politics playing was what they foiled together. That hairbrush didn't vanish until after everybody left because Mr. Allen's great focus during the start of running all those people away safely extended his protective aura several feet in all directions, and its benefits prevented Iris's time sickness from kicking in right away. Lockdown. Since Singh deciphered that wacky, swiftly sprinting Sir's identity more or less right away, he had enough time to figure out the logistics of properly prosecuting everybody caught by Central City's first superhero. Also, Barry being relatively slow at first meant more crime was happening before his success occurred, thus allowing for a greater quantity of witnesses to accumulate in most instances. Goldface must have used his power over namesake elements in order to make sure those elevator doors opened at the exact right moment for perfect knockout gas releasing action. Also, said supreme sleepiness starting stuff almost definitely contained nanites, stolen from Ray Palmer. Hence I was able to effortlessly knock out a speedster as well. Cold as Ice is most likely contained within some kind of rogue's favorite playlist bars in these parts keep on hand to ensure continued criminal calmness. This all would have been inspired by a certain appropriately named captain who enjoyed the aforementioned tune. He's so worried about Amunet's diet because her experiencing digestive chaos great enough that she loses ability control on the toilet could easily totally obliterate all nearby plumbing. It's a concern for himself, too, in particularly fancy establishments. Precious Metalhead said, "Flash!" Funny when describing what those meta-dampening bullets can do because he's nervous that less-than-loyal minions within earshot might be considering using the things on himself instead. Officer Allen's making sure Goldface doesn't cease stalking, not only to buy more time for the sake of stopping that dude's current crime, but also so he might end up accidentally confessing to at least one more previously occurring law-ignoring instance. Captain Kramer's bracelet deactivated isn't just because of that constantly shifting DNA junk Barry brought up. It's also stopped since these things are gold, and Stress made her copy What's-His-Face's powers in a reflexively defend self sort of way, right as they got slapped on everybody. Anyway, she's worried enough for auto-ability activation action at Jitters because of how often malicious metas and rogue military outfits do unpleasant things there. Instant new plan formulating doesn't get used to conjure up a less explosion-filled escape scheme because Barry wants something in the evidence room destroyed. Probably another cold gun or something else his presently faced black market running foe would love to steal. Captain West would have kept that office the same because of both former boss nostalgia and also so his rather quick adoptive son would already be intimately familiar with its layout just in case a situation demanded him to rush through there completely unnoticed. Wally West likely helped Chilblain and Frost find and get into that secret Keystone rave. The fire next time. If Barry had remained calm and approached things in pure CSI mode instead of getting all invested in his make sure what happened to my dad doesn't repeat state, he could have easily swayed those uppity friends/allies who are not employed in any jobs that investigate stuff with the following whatnot regarding how Birch's pyrotechnics actually follow physical laws. First, the dude's clothing smokes. Second, his flames generally make steam happen when water comes into play. Third, getting closer to that just mentioned wet nature aspect produces the usual reaction of making fire go bye-bye. Fourth and last, escaping from that truck left visibly noticeable evidence damage stuff, while the Dark Burnin Nation seemed to sneak about without setting anything other than people ablaze. Cecile is worried about reading a client's emotions using her powers because they might change their feelings in response to their attorney's own reactionary behavioral shift. It'd be a very job-ruining cycle. Plus, there might be some concern she'd wind up accidentally triggering somebody else's psychic powers and causing real harm, like if the one being helped were secretly like Rosa or something. Deathstorm enjoys framing people for his murders because the complications false allegations bring about result in even more tasty grief to snack on. While forming this new reality alongside those other paragons, not a god but closer than the one who claimed to be, Alan, might have accidentally granted less moral metas greater criminal histories than before, because all those crooks he knew well from that early universe iteration, like Snart and Rory, were quite above average with how much illegal whatever they got accomplished in a single lifetime. Phantoms. The mutations positive Dion has never seen before are caused by his negative counterpart being capable of creating even more powerful ones than that first disease version he basically made worthless, because Thawne's temporary timeline just gave those not-so-nice forces a huge strength boost. Hell, said dude being briefly normally connected to the regular speed deal likely made his usual one sap its whole load directly, for at least a little bit. That Coast City Phantom making people and things vanish trouble has Mrs. West Allen so worried for a couple of familial reasons. 1. With a 2 super kid having future on the horizon, she's quite curious about how passing powers down works. 2. There's probably some notable emotional pain resurfacing because she's being directly reminded of how her first daughter wound up undone. Miss Ocean View Ghost is normally quite pissy because a lack of ability control has resulted in mood-regulating brain function being more or less impossible currently, since parts of her noggin are occasionally occupying slightly different dimensions through reflexive accident shenanigan crap. Iris managed to figure out the aforementioned gal was a runaway from observing her backpack handling methods because of how young just adopted by Joe Barry formerly behaved. That charcoal matching incineration lacks a face at first because some 2 voices in one head related memories it stole from Ronnie and Stein's first Firestorm days made it confused about what the former really looked like. It must have swiped more past info after eating those folks who knew him and Caitlin. Enough so that head-front confirmation could truly come about. That crazy device-looking paperweight Sue bought may have been based on designs of Kryptonian tech Kara and/or Clark told Earth Press science people about at various points. Mr. Black Flame converges on the Speed Lab because it being home to loads of wacky events over several years, like Earth X invasions, adults training with Meta Might decades before even being born, talking to self-proclaimed deities via nightmare radio, speed and stillness avatars doing much junk, plus new forces getting created everywhere at once starting from there, have generated some sort of supremely strong supernatural scent in the place. Allegra and Chester don't believe in ghosts because Barry likes to keep his teammates away from Star Lab's Constantine folder until they've proven themselves level-headed enough to not blame everything on magic after first learning about its existence. Not doing that would simply waste far too much time in their scientific trouble-filled city. Dark D takes so long to replace his regular equivalent because he couldn't figure out said fellow's behavior until that recently manufactured ultra ailment reached a sizable enough memory scan fringe benefit possessing infection level. Reckless. Minus stationary power dude insists Iris can't leave because he doesn't want anyone particularly meta-science savvy like smart Star Labs people or supernaturally experienced beings such as the oldest Force Lady around her when that illness is still in a weak enough state that their expertise/deity abilities could provide a swift cure. Somewhat related, those evil nature whatsits must have been causing events like the empowering of reckless superhumans such as that Coast City Phantom to provide many options for keeping a certain intrepid reporter away long enough for full plan completion action. If things with these folks somehow involved enough smooth sail stuff, they wound up resolved relatively quickly. Desperation would then ensue, and full-on random stranger possession malarkey might come about. The shadowy Cinder Sorter stalks Frost not just so some more delicious grief might be grabbed, but also it believes she could pull off revival birth enabling crap identical to what her sister can do. It may even be willing to settle for her as a wife, too. This monster doesn't exactly have the same emotional processing as humans, after all. Chances are who got converted into deadly bride mode didn't really matter beyond base ingredient deals. There's a special alert for medlab break-ins because the team's greatly worried somebody else might want to make more velocity variants. A typically era misplaced reporter gal accidentally shuffling all the furniture away almost definitely has something to do with her currently being occupied with thoughts regarding redecorating Central City citizen media and or that cozy little loft. Thinking period must help that chaotically chronic condition act up, since making plans on how to spend one's moments is an activity deeply intertwined with time, as it's more or less the sole currency vital for doing so. This whole deal is more or less the supernatural sci-fi equivalent of food not meshing well with medication. Fatal weather event can't be contained by a doodad which could hold an artificial speed force or full multiverse's worth of Wellses because it was stashed away somewhere that predates the post-crisis reality. Nobody could know how to configure things for it correctly yet because nothing currently exists anymore that's built the same way. On that note, perhaps literally nothing being the same anymore was caused by all those new existence-crafting heroes at least subconsciously installing a sorta anti-antimatter immune system within their replacement home. That is, Mobius couldn't just summon a new consume-all wave anymore because his building bits won't be totally opposed to everything anymore until some fine-tuning takes place, which almost definitely involved killing those future League-forming foes and supernaturally dissecting them or whatever in order to figure out exactly how that could be done. Endings are a pain, but all of you are fantastic. See ya.